Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to the next episode of Inside the Business Mind. Now, for those of you who have been following all the wonderful things we're doing here at Coach Powell Training Development, this is an actual event that was put together by my favorite organization, which is the Roundtable. This is a coordinated effort between my friend Darren Marcourt and I to begin to explore different ideas for business owners and business people that we get to know in a more meaningful way. And so what we're going to have happen today is we're going to have an understanding. We're going to meet a very, very special person today. We're going inside the business mind of what I would consider one of the greatest legal geniuses that exist today. We're going to be able to talk to her about her unique blend of legal ideas and ideas that affect not just entertainment, but all of intellectual property as we know it. And I think she's going to share some wonderful insights with us about herself, her character, and where she's coming from when it comes to developing her practice. So hold on tight. I know you're ready for a great example of what's possible in the near future when it comes to the legal world and what we might be experiencing. And I'm looking forward to going inside the business mind with Miss Stephanie Mathis. Okay, without further ado, let me bring Stephanie to the stage. Stephanie, so good to have you here with us
Thank
here
you.
at Inside the Business Mind.
Thank you so much for having me.
Fantastic, fantastic. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Stephanie. Where you located, where you coming from, what kind of business are you into?
Okay, well, I'm Stephanie Mathis. I am the founder of SKT Legal. We're based in Northern Virginia, and we serve, depending on the area of law, we serve clients nationally, and we also serve clients here in the DC metropolitan area. Um, I founded this practice because I wanted to help creative people. And in that journey of trying to help creative people, I realized business owners, entrepreneurs are creative, in addition to music, which is part of my education and background. And I just wanted to have a practice where I could provide a holistic approach to the life cycle of a project, of a vision, and to help an individual or business bring their vision to fruition. And so, in that or doing that, we serve clients in not only entertainment law, but all aspects of intellectual property law as it pertains to copyright and trademark, helping businesses and nonprofits build from the ground up, making sure that we look at risk and that we take their whole vision into view as we develop a tailored strategy for that particular person or entity.
That is fantastic. So where did you first get this idea that you should launch this and go independent?
Well, um, just a simple, short story. I worked for a firm for a short period of time and just realized that I could empower myself to approach the law in a way that I felt was productive, direct, and one in which, again, is a holistic view. I don't want to be transactional here, take this and go. I need to know where you are, where you're trying to go, and take the time to figure that out so that when you leave, you feel good about the work that we did. And I had a specific vision for how I wanted to do that in terms of a business practice. So I just took the leap of faith and started to make it happen.
Fantastic. I love that, you use that terminology, leap of faith. Um, because when you know what you know, that leap isn't as far as
True.
when you don't have a clue, and I love that. That's exactly what Darren and I did when we started the roundtable. Some of the things we believe in the roundtable are three tenets, and we take those three tenets and we use those three tenets to guide us in all of our practices going forward. So we always talk about collaboration, we always talk about encouragement, and we always talk about communication and the values of all those three elements as they come together. If you see the logo above me over here, to I guess where am I going? That right, right there, right. Those three words are out there because those are the guiding principles of how we do everything we do at our organization. When we teach people how to develop relationships, how to network, we're all always talking about those three key tenets. So when you think about those three key ideas, collaboration, communication, encouragement, which one, if you had to choose one, and you have to choose one for this particular answer,
Okay.
um, reigns supreme for you, and why?
Collaboration. Um, we can do a lot alone, but we can do a lot more together. It's when you build a team around you of people that you trust their integrity, you trust their character, you trust their skill set, it can take you much further than you feeling like you have to do it by yourself. You go a lot further, a lot faster. And this is ties into a lot of what I do with nonprofits. Part of that work is helping them pick a board of directors. You can't run a nonprofit on your own if you're trying to really scale it. And you've got to bring in people who have the same passion, people whose skill set is different from you, because you can do what you can do, but you might need somebody to come and do something you can't. If you're an introvert, maybe you shouldn't be in the forefront of sales and marketing. Find somebody that can fill the gaps and build a great team. And it's amazing what happens when you take the time to really assess, again, where you are, where you want to go, and how different people can fit into that puzzle.
That's interesting. You should say that because, obviously, a part of that assessment is about about people who have the right skills,
Mm-hmm.
and also people who have the right capacity,
Mm-hmm.
as well as people who have the most meaningful opportunity to actually share something. I think that when you are involving yourself in a collaborative opportunity, I think sometimes people are fearful of
Mm-hmm.
sort of opening it up and sharing what they really have, what they can really bring to the table if they were truly committed to the mission or
Mm-hmm.
the concept, or whatever it is you're trying to do. When you think about your vision for what you want your firm to be, and the collaborative efforts that you're trying to engage in, where do you see that going? What do you feel like that's going to be when it's all said and done? What will it look like to the rest of us?
It would look like scaling. It would look like bringing more people on board to help, again, amplify what we're doing and also be able to offer it to more people. And also with that collaboration, it's not just, someone sitting next to me doing the same work, but it's also mentorship, internship, bringing people up as well. It's sort of a give back. There's a synergy in receiving, the benefits of working with great individuals, but you also have to give back in a way. And I see both a lateral and a vertical type of scaling when I think about my business and collaborating with others.
I just watched this show on HBO. I think it's HBO. I can't remember now which channel. No, it's Prime. And they were talking about the life of Jesus's apostles after he died,
Mm,
and they're just going into the of all of them, what they had to deal with, specifically, especially Peter and some of the major apostles, right? What were they experiencing? How were they finding their ability or sometimes lack of ability to actually scale this message, right? How do you find ways to do this when so many obstacles are out there against what you're trying to share and what you're trying to bring to the table? And we all have to face those obstacles no matter what we're trying to do. So if you look at some of the things that you think are maybe obstacles or challenges, what are obstacles or challenges that you see that you're going to have to overcome in this collaborative process that you're trying to put together?
I think the biggest obstacle, which isn't doesn't have to be much of an obstacle, but is willing to have a capacity for some level of failure. And what I mean by that is um, being okay with, say, for instance, work hiring somebody or bringing somebody on, and it's just not the right fit. That's okay.
Right,
That's
right.
okay. We can have the conversation, we can figure something else out, but not being so adverse to saying, hey, that didn't work out. I shouldn't have done this anyway. we're saying, hey, this was a learning experience and we're going to pivot and we're going to regroup. Again, like to your example about the lives of the apostles after the death of Jesus, they were in different places establishing different churches, scaling, right? And all of the New Testament is letters to these churches. They set it up, they were hoping it would go a certain way, and then they get word back from the various churches that all of this crazy stuff is going on and we need you to intervene. So they had to say, okay, well, the framework I set up, something is, we need to give additional instruction, we need to give additional encouragement, maybe we need to get some other disciples to come and help. But we're setting something up, it's new, you're going to run into unexpected challenges, above the initial challenges of setting something new up. Now we have to pivot and not being afraid to pivot. And that's a mind thing, that you have to cultivate. Saying, okay, I'm doing this, it's new, that's fine. I have the skill set to attempt this new venture. When something happens, because it's life, it's people, it's circumstances, I am not going to be afraid of that challenge. I am going to use the skill set that I believe in, and I'm going to pivot in a meaningful way.
Wow. You just described how I would describe resilience and
Exactly.
and, and flexibility, right? And open-mindedness and making that a part of your business practice. To me, that's what instinctively that came to my mind. Does that ring true with you? Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. Awesome. So intuitively, this thought process, this practice of resilience, right, is something obviously that has to come from within for a large part. You have to really believe in it, and you really have to understand that bad times are going to come, and that's got to be okay. It's not always going to work
Mhm.
perfectly according to plan, and that's got to be okay. Where does this intuition come from within you? Where does it come? How do you have this? Because a lot of people don't. They go, wait, time out. If they ever hit a wall, they just, that's it. That's that. I'm done. I'm not going to try even. I'm not going to go at it again. I'm not going to rethink it. I'm not going to pivot. I'm not going to do all the things that you just mentioned earlier, right? Where does this come from? This instinct in you?
Because at this point, I have gotten clear on my purpose. And I believe
Mm,
that your purpose and your calling are what they are, regardless of the circumstance that you're put into. If I'm called to serve others, I can serve them if I'm rich, I can serve them if I'm poor, I can serve them if it's just me, I can serve them if I have 500 employees. The purpose is something that when you figure it out, it doesn't leave you and it doesn't leave you alone. When you're
right.
off course, you still have that urge to do. When you're complacent, you still know in the back of your head, I need to be doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And that is what it is for me. That is what it
Awesome.
is for me that keeps me going, that keeps me encouraged, that keeps me searching for new solutions when I do hit roadblocks in my plans.
Kind of, I kind of, well, I absolutely agree with you 100% on that one. But I think that's something that innately is in all of us. Either we
Hmm.
pay attention to that calling, or we ignore it, or try to ignore it, or try to deny it. To move forward in our lives, and really, it's a recipe for disaster.
Sure is.
It's
It
like
sure is.
you, there's an old play um, that I remember from my childhood, probably way too old for you to remember, but there was a play called Your Arms Are Too Short to Box with God.
Mm.
Um, and I'm hold on just a second. Um, I'm in a just hold on just a second. I'll be right back. Okay. Sorry about that. I had to take a quick break. Anyway, we'll figure out how to erase this out of the tape somehow. Um, what were we talking about? We're talking about resilience. We're talking about your intuitive nation, know to be resilient. Talk about to me about commitment. Now I understand. Purpose is a thing. For first of all, if you we have to have it in order to acknowledge it, right? You can't
Hmm.
acknowledge it if you don't have it in the first place.
Hmm.
But once you acknowledge it, you know, how would you say you go about deepening your commitment to that purpose?
It's finding a way to take action. You know, they say that faith without works is dead. So you can know and not do and still be where you are. You have to do something.
Right.
And that is, I think, the biggest challenge a lot of people face when pulling a vision to making it real, right? And
Right.
that's the, I guess, the catchphrase or the slogan for my practice. It's create your vision. So how do we take what's in here, and put it into something tangible, something you can offer to somebody else? And that takes action. Um, it takes gaining knowledge, but not sitting on that knowledge, applying that knowledge, and figuring out. And this is where other people can come in and help you. What is the plan? How do I get from point A to point B? And you can't do it any other way by digging your heels in the dirt and getting some work done.
You just you're speaking right up my alley as a coach. To me, it's all about execution. You can
Hmm.
plan all day long, right? But what really counts is when you put the shoulder to the plow, when you put the work in,
Hmm.
when you decide that this is what you're going to do, and then you actually do something to move that agenda forward. You actually that's because that's where the learning occurs, right? You don't know
Exactly.
the boundaries or where any type of um, challenges might arise unless you start to move towards something, unless you start to do
Hmm.
something. If you're not in the execution mindset, um, then you're not going to get anything done. However, that doesn't mean you don't plan.
Right.
And a lot of people feel like, I just don't have time to sit down and codify this thing. I don't have time to sit down and really think through all of the different or brainstorm with my team, all the different aspects of this thing and how we should do about it, blah, blah, blah. We just got to get to work. And I will say that has value, but at the same time, that's the recipe for a truckload of more mistakes than had you had
Absolutely.
sat down and taken the time to gather your resources, whatever those resources were, time, talent, or treasure, and codify all that and begin to then see what the data, so to speak, says to you. What does the research say to you? What is the information that you've been able to gather, the people that you've been able to gather, in the time that you've been able to gather to say to you? And so the natural question I think people ask all the time is, okay, when do we stop planning and when do we get to going? How do we do it? Do you set an arbitrary date, or is there a moment that should arrive that it's time to go? And the answer is, I don't know. It depends. you know, it really depends on, what the pressures are that you're facing. I mean, if you're facing the pressure of applying for, say, a loan, or the
Hmm.
pressure of um, trying to appease investors, or the pressure of um, trying to get something done because you're putting something else off
Yeah.
to do this thing that you
Hmm.
want to do because you have to give all your time, effort in. I don't know what that might be for any circumstance, but there are a million different circumstances, which brings me to my final question. At a macro level, there are several different things that affect how we move and how we do business, right? There's the PESTLE example, which is PESTLE is an acronym that stands for political, economic, social, technological, legal, and ecosystem, or types of environmental concerns that might affect how you do what you do. Obviously, you have to look out for all of these things.
Hmm.
But what are the things that come to the top of your mind that is something that you really do have to pay attention to when it comes to moving your practice forward? Political, economic, social, technical, legal, or environmental concerns? Which ones are resonate that you really do have to pay attention to these things?
Well, clearly the first is going to be legal for me. Um,
Mhm.
since I'm an attorney. But as you grow and scale, I tell all of my business clients, this goes to what you were saying before about some people want to just jump out the gate and go. And I always say, okay, let's hold on because you're going to have to pay now or you're going to have to pay later. And we're not always talking about money. We're talking about pay now and the time and attention it takes to set this thing up right. Or you're going to pay later when you get served because you didn't do something right. You know, there is a price and you can choose when you want to pay the price. But oftentimes I find that sitting down, doing your diligence at the forefront will make things a lot smoother going forward. So even with me, the legal framework, I need to sit down and say, what are my needs? How do I achieve those needs? What are the legal means that I can use to achieve those means? And out of those options, which aligns most with my company vision and my goals, short term and long term, for how I want to grow the practice. So that's what contracts, all sorts of contracts to protect my intellectual property, to engage other professionals. Are you going to be a contractor? Are you going to be an employee? We need to look at the scope of business of work that I need. Do I need a consultant and not an employee? All of these decisions. So that's framework setting. And then when I have an idea of how I can um, acquire my needs for serving my community, the next thing is societal. What does my ideal client need? What is the climate of the society that we're in? What are the priorities that are emerging? Okay, and even with the way technology is moving, I work with a lot of clients in the tech space, software development, the way that technology moves and develops rapidly. What do they need? They need assurance that what they're creating is protected. That means we need to develop an intellectual property um, framework for identifying your IP, protecting your IP, enforcing your IP rights, and leveraging your IP assets. So that is something that I see that is emerging as a need. If I'm working in the music landscape, the needs are different there. We're creativity, the fluidity of ideas. Trying to mix that with business is a unique challenge in the arts industry. So I have to take that into account when I'm approaching clients with artistic creative goals. Okay, I know the artist's mind. I know where you rather would be. You don't want to be in this meeting with me. You want to be doing what you do. So how do we embrace and facilitate you doing what you do in a way that is going to protect what you do and allow you to do it more? And that's what I have to meet. So each industry that I work in is a society within itself, and there's different
Mhm.
things going on socially that we have to be aware of in order to meet those needs.
Right. That's incredible. That is just an incredible understanding. As you started to talk, I started to think about this notion of defining and aligning.
Mm,
you know, when you create the framework, what is the framework based on? It's based
mm-hmm,
on the
mm-hmm.
definitions that you've chosen, that you've aligned yourself with, right? And also how those definitions work together collectively to help you move whatever your agenda is forward, which is just beautiful. Like, man, I should go to law school. But thank you so very much for your time today. If there's anything you wanted to leave our audience with today, what would that be, that you would really want them to share and understand, or take away from what you're saying?
um, no time is the right time, but any time is a good time. And I'll say that because, again, I work with people who are driven by a vision that they have. That whatever industry, whether it's arts related, whether it's business related, they come to me with an idea and they say, I need you to help me make this work. And if you look at today's climate, political climate, social climate, economic climate, it sometimes it's kind of discouraging. It says maybe now you shouldn't do it. But if you look at history, the people that have succeeded have Number one, paid attention to historical trends. Um, Nothing new under the sun, right? And they've come up with a plan to address it. They've come up with a way to pivot. If you have a purpose, again, if you have a purpose and you know what it is, you have that idea that you can't let go, that won't let you go, you've got to find a way to implement it. If you don't sit on it. Um,
Right.
and again, it's having a plan in place, understanding the risks. We don't say go blindly into it. It doesn't matter what's going on. It does matter what's going on around you. But we need to
Right.
sit down, figure out how to best move forward incrementally. Maybe you want to go 10 feet, but right now, let's do 3 feet. But we're making progress. It's just let's avoid the stagnancy. Let's cut the barriers of excuse that naturally occur as you are pulling something from the air and making it a reality. We have to
Right.
get past that, um, and not let external forces completely extinguish those ideas.
Wow. That was amazing. You said a mouthful. And I love I wish I could regurgitate that, but I'm just not that smart. But I'm thinking, there's a flame that creators have, that sometimes doesn't even get to see the light of day underneath the weight of
Hmm.
all that surround us, and you've just, I think, have in your interpretation of IP and how it should go, have given us all a little bit more hope, that it's doable. It may not be done in the time frame you want it done, or
Hmm.
it may not all work out the way you predict or plan or want it to work out. You might think you have just this hit idea, right? This is the idea that's going to change the world. But the patent office is full of those ideas. The trademark offices are full of those ideas, you know,
Sure
that
is.
don't actually ever become something that's valuable, or something like what
Hmm.
happened during the last oil crisis. So many different energy related patents were all of a sudden being produced by
Hmm.
scientists and research officers all over the world. And then they got bought up by the big oil companies who wanted to stop this progress towards
Hmm.
a more natural way of our energy being used, and so on and so forth. And you may say, well, yeah, those patents got bought, so those people became instant millionaires. But their ideas have been sitting on the shelf for the last 50 years,
Hmm.
as they're now starting to come out. And who's coming out with those ideas? Those same oil companies that
Sure
bought them
are.
years ago. So it's just
Hmm.
amazing, amazing. It's just one of those examples of, yeah, your idea might been so valuable that they gotta stop it.
Hmm.
So
Very
it's
true.
so meaningful, so powerful that it's got to be kind of put down. Um, and then you have to ask yourself the question: do I sell, or do I keep pushing?
Hmm.
Is my mission big enough for me to get past the gift of this, after I've been birthing this for so many years, and now all of a
Hmm.
sudden somebody wants to pay me for it. I'm like, do you take the money, or do you know, double down and find some other resources that will help you do it? And it just, again, it depends,
It
you know,
depends.
on where you are in terms of your mission, in terms of your value proposition, and what you need for your team, and
Hmm.
sustainability, and all those thoughts. Anyway, it was wonderful talking to you, Stephanie. I'm going to put you backstage
Likewise.
for while I close the show.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time and your energy, and really your thoughts are just amazing. I
Thank
can't
you.
wait to work with you on some other projects and so moving forward. But I'll say my goodbye now. I'm going to close out the show, but I don't want you to go anywhere. You sit backstage for a second, okay?
Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I told you, when we do Inside the Business Mind, we only bring high quality people to the table. And Stephanie Mathis is no joke when it comes to understanding the legal framework, or and developing, wonderful IP ideologies and thought processes. So if you're out there and you're struggling and you're looking for a good attorney, you're looking for somebody to toss some ideas out, this is the person you want to look up. This is the person you want to call. In fact, I'm going to try to put, I can't do it from a recording point of view because I can't do it till we go live. But when we do go live, I will have her contact information in front of you so that you can reach out to her if you need to reach out and share some time and some space with her. Other than that, this is Coach. This is Inside the Business Mind with Coach Powell, Coach Powell Training and Development. We look forward to seeing you, and hopefully, you will get your opportunity to bring value to the table and go inside the business mind. Thank you very much.